Hey, I'm over here. Okay, good. Well, it's a new year and I have made a new episode of Construction Rocks just for you. Now, remember last year when I made that floor joist? Well, the dogs loved it. They thought it was a Christmas present, but we have bigger plans for them. Haha, yes sirree, this is going to be the best present the dogs will ever have. Though I bet they still want bones. So today I plan to build the walls of the doghouse. So I guess you could say that on this episode of Construction Rocks, I will teach you some facts about walls and how to build them. So let's go to the drawing board. I know what you're thinking. This is a building show, not a drawing show. But before we can build the walls, we need to understand what the parts are and what their function is. So let's get to it. Now, what you see before you are the drawing plans that I've already made for the walls of my doghouse. Now, let's take a closer look at this middle drawing right here. Now, do you see these green pieces up here? And do you see this golden piece down here? Well, in construction, we call those plates. And they are part of the outside perimeter of the wall frame. Now, a wall frame usually has one piece for the bottom, as you can see right here, that one gold piece. The top, though, has two pieces on top of one another. Yeah, do you see these two green pieces? And you will notice that on this wall, the top piece is longer than this bottom top piece right here. Now, on this side wall right here, you can kind of notice that the top piece is actually shorter than this bottom piece. As you can see right here, the top piece is shorter than the bottom piece. Now, why is that? The purpose for this is so that we can have an overlap between the two walls. Not only does it make connection easier, but it also makes it stronger. You can also connect corners by flipping a 2x4 at a corner and screwing all the way down the wall. Along with these top pieces, we also have these vertical pieces, these purple pieces of wood, as you can see, and those are called studs. Studs are what keep the plates parallel and sturdy. So these studs keep these two top plates parallel. Now, studs are placed 16 inches on center. And if you haven't watched my floor joist episode already, where I explained that in more detail, here's a brief explanation of that. It means that these studs are 16 inches apart. Now, if a wall doesn't have a window or a door frame, that's all there is to it. Just studs and top plates. But not all walls are like that. Some walls have doors and windows inside of them. So carpenters also have to make the rough openings for those. But not to fear, because I am here to explain what you can expect, grasshoppers. Now, here's an example of a wall frame that has a door opening in it. Now, this is my front wall, which is going to have a doorway for the dogs to get in their house. So, with walls that have, doorways in them, there are a few extra parts to it. So first we have this thick piece called the header, which is this red piece up here. Now, the header's purpose is to support the weight above the door even when the door is open. Now, there are many different types of headers, but the main rule is that the wider the door is, the greater the height of the header needs to be. Now, these blue posts are called jack studs. You see these two blue posts? Now, these studs hold the header up. And this stud that's right next to it, these orange pieces right here, those are called king studs. And they are basically to hold in the header and the jack studs together. And lastly, these small studs above the header, so you see that small piece right there? Now, those are called cripples. And they are, really just small studs for the space between the header and the top plate. Now, a window frame is very similar to a door frame, except for two differences. A window has a 2x4 piece going across. So, for example, pretend that's a 2x4. And it also has cripples that go between the bottom plate and that 2x4. Other than that, that's the only difference. Okay, that's enough of the drawing board. So let's actually make the walls. Now, when you make walls, you usually have the bottom plate treated wood so that it doesn't rot as fast. But for this demonstration, I'll be using an untreated board. Because for my doghouse, I'll have 2 bottom plates, which is rare, but I'm doing it with the treated on bottom and the untreated on top. There you go. Now, I'm giving you a fair warning. For those that have not seen my floor joist episode, stop the video right now and go watch it, because I go really into detail about how to space out boards 16 on center. Now, the floor joist that I did was very similar to a wall that just had studs in it. So, go watch it if you have not seen it already. But for those that have seen it already, on this episode, I will show you how to lay out a wall with a door in it. So to start out your wall, you need to put your 2 plates flush on each side. Second, you need to determine from your plans how far the edge, the center of your door will be. So for mine, it will be 2 feet 9.5 inches. So once you figure that out, I will mark that point with a C on it, so that we know that's the center of the door. Now we need to determine how wide the rough opening is. For my door, it's 2 feet. Now go half that distance on each side of that C mark, which I will demonstrate. So you would go 1 foot from that C mark and go ahead and mark this edge. And then we move over our tape, and then we mark where we need to be from that C mark. So here's the foot mark right there. Marks, go ahead and trace it out with your speed square, like so. Now these marks are the inside edges of the jack studs. So from these marks, we go 1.5 inches to make the thickness of these jack studs. Then from this new mark that we just made, we have to go another 1.5 inches for the king stud that's going to be right next to it. So let's do that. So we put 1.5 mark right there, and then do that. And so this will be where the jack is. This will be where the king is. And now just do the same thing for the other side. So after you mark where your king and jack studs will be, go ahead and mark 16 on center for the regular studs. So for every X there is on this board, that's where a stud is going to be. So the stud's going to be right there and right there. There's my king and jack marks. And right here, I have a stud mark right in the middle of my doorway. Not to worry, I'm not going to put a stud right there. It's just a marking for my cripple. And when I transfer it over to my top plate up here, I'm going to put the cripple right there, but not on my bottom plate. And so I keep going. There's my jack and king, and then there's my edge mark right there. Now notice that I've already marked my top plate right there. Now I found this useful when I do this. So go to the edge where you started your 16 on center marks and mark an arrow towards that edge. So an arrow right there and an arrow right there. Okay? Now this will remind you where you started your 16 on center. Then mark a B on your bottom plate and a T for your top plate. This will help you keep track of which board belongs where. So the main thing to do after that is to figure out our stud length and all the other lengths that are needed to make the wall. And then it's just nailing and squaring things up. So watch me make 4 walls in half the time it took me to build the floor joist. Go! We're done. Okay. Oh, Well, I hope you took at least one piece of useful knowledge from this episode. And for you beginner students, you better practice making walls because you'll become a better carpenter if you do. Well, I'll finish this episode by saying that my next video, which is part 2 of this episode, is coming soon, and it'll be about attaching walls to the floor. Okay, I'm John Kassler. Okay, goodbye. Guess what? I even sleep with my hat on.
Good night.